I knew I couldn't focus like I needed to. So I actually stepped out of real estate for about 4 or 5 years, and did what I had to do because I didn't have the mindset or the ability to do what I was doing anymore. It was just the satisfaction of being able to step into a higher market and not being intimidated because someone's worth 100 million or 200 million, or I've worked with people who were worth over $1 billion for that matter.
Freaking love that answer, and I love when you said that you weren't intimidated.
Can you explain a little bit how you do your social media? I mean, how you market, how you go and target your audience, because this is a different audience.
Because people don't want the government to take their money. Welcome, my beautiful people. Today I'm super excited because I have a special guest, a longtime friend, someone that I've known for a long time. And we're bringing him on here because I really want you guys to hear his expertise as it relates to the luxury real estate market, specifically in South Florida. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Steve. Steve, tell us who you are and what you're about.
Hey, Fernando, good to see you. Yeah, so as you said, my name's Steve Romaniello. I'm a realtor here in Fort Lauderdale. Been licensed since 1999. Came to Fort Lauderdale in 1992. I was in the military at the time. I was transferred here. Grew up in New Jersey, spent time all over the country, different duty stations, ended up in South Florida in 92, got out in 96, got into real estate in 1999, and been enjoying South Florida ever since.
So, Steve, what year did I meet you? Was it like 2000? I can't remember what year I met you.
2011, 2010, 2011, right in there.
Yeah, 2011. And a quick side note before we get into this: when I met Steve, at the time I was running, I was still coaching in a CrossFit gym, which I still own. But the interesting part is when I first met Steve, I looked at him. I'm like, this guy looks like Sylvester Stallone. This guy is like a movie star. So we started calling him Hard Rock Steve. But that's a side note. But Steve, so let's get into why I actually brought you here on. So tell us what inspired you to pursue a career in real estate, specifically getting into the luxury market.
Yeah, so as I was saying, I got out of the military in 96 and spent 10 years and change. So it was basically starting over. So tried every job market, every blue collar job you could do. And I was working 2 and 3 jobs at a time, doing what I had to do to get by. I met a really good friend of mine who I was working with, and he was getting into real estate. So he was talking to me about it. So I decided, hey, maybe that's something I could try. I did. I enjoyed it. And eventually I transitioned into real estate. And that's how I got into it.
Awesome. Yeah. Now, real estate is it's a broad, there's a lot of vehicles or avenues within the real estate market. I know that you have been very successful, specifically in the luxury market. So can did you start in the luxury market, or if you didn't, what was that journey, that transition like?
Sure. So when I first started, I was actually started doing rentals for them. I worked for a rental company. So I was hustling, doing what I could to find apartment homes. And, real estate's something you either have to be 100 dedicated to it, or if you do it part-time as a side hustle, you're likely not going to be successful at it. And you're really not going to do your clients the best service because it's something you have to stay on top of. Right. So that said, when I started, I was working 2 jobs, as most realtors do, until you can get going. So I started out just doing rentals, and then as people learned I was in real estate, I started doing condominium sales and single family home sales, and just kind of worked my way up. Now, as I was saying, real estate's something that you have to be 100 dedicated to. So you met me, we met like 2010, 2011. I was going through some personal life challenges at the time. So I knew I couldn't focus like I needed to. So I actually stepped out of real estate for about 4 or 5 years, and did what I had to do because I didn't have the mindset or the ability to do what I was doing anymore. And then my second career kind of started in 2015, 2016. And I took all the knowledge I had those first 10, 11 years. I was already starting with that. And I was able to use that to help me move forward into the luxury markets. So how do you do it? I kind of have like an analogy. Like if you want to go ahead and, if you're going to go ahead and, if you're a fisherman and you want to go catch mahi, you're going to go where the mahi are, right? If you want to catch sailfish, you're going to go look for the sailfish. Well, as a realtor, you can choose to market yourself in any normal community, and you can do that. What I chose to do on the second half is take all that knowledge that I had about real estate. I felt very comfortable and confident in what I was doing, and I would market myself and spend times in the areas that brought the most money: Las Olas Isles, Harbor Beach, Rio Vista, Coral Ridge. And it's just time, consistency. I would make those contacts, make those sales, and I moved up. And then once you establish that clientele, the most important thing is to stay in touch with them, because 90% of my business is referral business or repeat business.
Yeah, I love that answer, and I'm going to second what you said, and I'm glad you mentioned it. I firmly believe that if you want to see success, or you want to be successful in any vehicle, it could be real estate, it could be me in the short-term rental industry, you have to be singly focused. And Steve just mentioned it, and he's living proof that you can do things part-time, you can do things half-ass, and expect to be successful. So I'm glad you brought that up, because that's huge, and you're living proof that once you focused, you saw success. So tell me, share with me a memorable highlight within your career that's unique to especially like the luxury market.
Well, I think really it was probably what I call the second half of my career, as I was explaining, when I reintroduced to myself, and I was like, I want to take a second here just to say something too. Like, regardless if it's real estate, regardless of what you're doing, sometimes life throws you curveballs, and the quicker you saddle up, the better for you. But it doesn't mean you can't get going in the direction you were going, or you can't go where you want to go. You just got to get the right mindset, put your head to it, and do it. And that goes for real estate or anything. It doesn't have to be real estate. It could be any job or any goal you have. We limit ourselves more than anybody else, right? No one can stop you. The only person who can stop you is you. So anyway, I'm just going to say that once you figure that out, whatever you want to do, you just go out there and make it happen. You put the effort and the time and learn, be humble, learn, and move on. So what was, I guess, memorable for me was when I did get back into it, knowing the market had changed a little bit, but still, the product knowledge is still the same, right? So as long as you catch up with the product knowledge, what's the inventory, etc., you could talk intelligently about that. So I would say probably 6 months to a year in, when it started churning for me, I just felt good that, hey, you know what, I am good at this. It was just the satisfaction of being able to step into a higher market and not being intimidated because someone's worth 100 million or 200 million, or I've worked with people who were worth over $1 billion for that matter. You have to remember one thing: I'm just selling them real estate. So I might not be able to talk intelligently about what they do and how they got to be a billionaire. But if you want to talk real estate in South Florida, I have all the product knowledge in the world, the statistics, and that's what makes me valuable, or any real estate agent valuable. They're not coming to me because they're like, hey, this guy I want to have a beer with. And they're coming to me because they want to buy a property. They want to know about the property. They want to know what to watch out for. And so us as experts in the industry, that's what they're hiring us to do.
Listen, I freaking love that answer. And I love when you said that you weren't intimidated, right? I speak to a lot of people, and a lot of people really limit themselves, and it's a limited belief that a lot of people have within themselves. And I tell people this, that in real estate or in the short-term rental world or in business in general, in the effort it takes to, let's say, make $100,000 is the same than the effort it takes to make $100 million. The difference is a lot of people are intimidated by that big number.
Right.
Dude, that's why I love the answer you just said, because it truly is. The limiting factor is the individual. And you said to yourself, I'm not going to be intimidated just because this guy makes more money. In fact, he should be intimidated by me because I have the product knowledge that
Right.
he wants. Right?
Yeah, basically, you just want to have the tools in your toolbox, right, to do the job that you're being hired for. So, you know, what I found, especially dealing with people in the higher price range, their most valuable asset, as you probably know this, I know you know this, their most valuable asset is time. So they want information. They want the right answer. If you don't know the answer, find the answer out, but they expect you to kind of know it, right? But anyway, so the more product knowledge you have, don't try to, BS them. Just be straightforward, give them the information, listen, to what they're asking. It's very important. Whether it's a luxury property or not, you have to do that. But these people are successful and on the next level, and they have an expectation, and they, if you don't do it for them, they'll hire somebody else. So just have the product knowledge and speak comfortably and confident about, to answer their questions. In Fort Lauderdale, the market's very specific. We're like one of the largest boating communities on the East Coast. So a lot of these rich people come with their yachts and their boats, and they have a lot of specific questions, and you need to be prepared to answer them.
Awesome. So, and you kind of touched on this, but can you tell me what trends are you seeing in the Florida real estate market?
Okay, well, so, Fort Lauderdale has continued ever since, we've always had more people kind of coming than going, but that we kind of saw a spike back in 2020 with the virus. I should say after the virus, because people had moved to South Florida in record numbers to try to escape some of the states that had stricter policies in effect. So we were a little bit more liberal down here in Florida with our freedoms. So we already have no federal tax. We have the great warm weather. We don't have snow. So we already had that going for us. But then when you threw in the fact that, hey, we went through this virus, COVID, and we were a lot less, I want to use the right word here. We weren't as totalitarian as, say, like California or Illinois or Maryland or New York. And so people like, hey, look, I don't want to be, anyway, I won't go down that rabbit hole, but that caused a lot of people to move here still. So now Fort Lauderdale, where I work, there's only so many waterfront homes. So, supply was the same and demand shot through the roof. So we saw a huge increase within a matter of 6 months on prices of luxury properties. I'm talking like 25%, 30% increases in just, 6 months. Luxury properties that used to take a year or 6 months or a year to sell were selling before they were built, or we would have multiple offers on properties in excess of $10 million, which was unheard of prior to 2020. And since 2020, the prices have continued to march up. We did see a little leveling off with the increase in interest rates. However, the buyer for a 10, 15, $20 million property isn't necessarily getting a loan. They'll get one if it's cheap money. If they can get a $10 million loan at 2%, they were going to do that. And I've seen that happen, but they still have the ability to buy. So we did see a little bit of leveling off, and we continue to see a slight upward trend, but not as the same rate as 2020. But the luxury market down here isn't going anywhere fast south. It's gonna run stable to an upward trend, because there's only so many of the properties available and so many people are coming here.
Yeah, that's interesting. I knew, like, for example, with me, I don't really rely on banks anymore to do purchases. And I wasn't really thinking about that luxury market, that interest rates don't affect it much as it does in a standard residential market. So that's interesting you mentioned that. And so let me ask you this question in terms of economics then. So the recent increase in interest rates and inflation in the economy, has that had a major impact, minor impact, or what kind of impact has that had on the real estate market in terms of sales?
Yeah, so that impact, what I see with that is people, when you have like the market and people are starting to feel like, hey, is it getting a little bit, is it overinflated? When you see internationally, like what did we have? China, Russia, some of these other countries, some of the Arab countries, not using the dollar as the standard anymore. The talk of going to digital currency, which scares the hell out of a lot of people, right? As it should. So what we've seen with that is a lot of people are pulling their money more diversified into hard assets like real estate. So instead of having my money making 10% or 15%, if they could get that even, not sure if there's going to be stability in the stock market or other investments, they're buying hard assets like land and houses, which are a little bit more recession proof than say, you lose 40% in your 401k. That might not translate to your property the same. So having a hard asset when the dollar is looking a little bit or was looking a little bit like it might not be the standard anymore, we saw people put a lot of money into real estate, which again gave our market a boost down here. And we've seen some record sales down here. Just recently this year, most recently we had a $70 million sale in Fort Lauderdale, highest ever. Prior to that, there was a record $40 million sale. So like I said, we're not seeing a slowdown. And another reason for that, a lot of people who let's just pick California, for example, who had a beautiful property in Malibu. They still have a property there, but now what they did is they made their primary residence Florida. So the $20 million property they had in Malibu, they said, you know what, I'll buy a $20 million property in Florida and I'll just have a $5 million property. So they kind of did a flip-flop. So they still might have their second, third, or fourth homes, but they're saying, hey, you know what? I want to make my primary home South Florida, and for all the reasons that I've just mentioned.
Yeah, I'm prime example. My home base is South Florida, but now I got properties in other areas of the country. But you're right. My home base is here, and it's for multiple reasons, but taxes being one. Now. You mentioned national, China, Russia, etc. But let's talk about the international buyer. Have they influenced the luxury market in South Florida?
Well, they have. I more so a couple of years ago, we saw a lot of people coming up from South America, Venezuela. Again, when you have a country, an international country, and the government's not stable. Those people want to leave. They want to put their money somewhere where they feel like they're not going to lose it. So I remember back in 2021, I had a good amount of South American buyers, a lot from Venezuela who were coming up and they're like, hey, I want to buy this, this, and this. And I'm like, let's go, and so they wanted to move their money again, right? Someplace that's stable, so, but yeah, you do have any buyers international are just going to influence the market because anytime you have more buyers, right, that's going to drive prices up because the competition's increased. So we do get international buyers here in South Florida, and that adds to the national and local buyers. And the more buyers we have, the better for the sellers and the property owners because more competition for the property means a higher price or closer to full ask price.
Yeah, and that's it. For me, was the perfect storm, right? Because you mentioned what was happening during COVID. You mentioned the instability of countries like Colombia, like Venezuela. I saw the same thing. In 2021 and 2022 were my highest grossing years in terms of revenue across the board. And it was because of that. So what happened during, especially, we talked about COVID, but also what happened politically, right? Colombia, for the first time in a long time, elected a socialist president. As a result of that, wealthy people left Colombia and came to South Florida and purchased properties. Venezuela has been the flight of money out of Venezuela has been consistent.
Right.
And I say the same thing even domestically, right? We saw the max exodus of states like New York, California, Illinois, and they came to South Florida or Florida in general because people don't want the government to take their money. So, anyways, I won't go down that rabbit hole, but let's switch gears and talk a little bit about the role of marketing. And Lorena, if you want to jump in here and ask Steve some of questions in terms of marketing as you understand it.
So in marketing, we understand the trends, we understand how like the tools works, but in many agencies we don't understand actually how the luxury market works. So this is why we want you here, because we want to understand how important is marketing, especially digital marketing, in the luxury real estate.
Sure, absolutely. So obviously people could look at properties in Fort Lauderdale from halfway around the world. So whatever you're presenting them there, you want to make sure you invest in the best photography, the best videography, and you want the information crisp. You want a good presentation. A lot of times, again, I'll see when I see a house listed, not necessarily luxury, usually that's pretty on point, but you'll see people, using their cell phone to take pictures and take videos, and that's okay. But when you're trying to sell 10, 15, $20 million home, that's not going to cut it. First impressions are everything. So spend the money, get the right pictures, the right photography, do nighttime shots, daytime shots, the right videographer to make the person feel like, hey, I'm in the house. I can see myself living here. So that's really important. And then the second part is you just got to touch them with that. So I've compiled, over the last almost 10 years now, I have mailing lists. So if I have a property I want to target a $3 to $5 million buyer, I have a list for that. If I have a 5 to 10 million, I have a list for that. If I have a property that's listed at over 10 million, I have a list for that. And it's another way to stay in touch with people. Hey, this has just been listed. There's going to be an event tonight, or in a couple weeks. I'd like you to come if you can make it. And those buyers could be local, they could be across the country, or they could be, halfway across the world. So it's very important. And that's what we do.
Perfect. Can you explain a little bit how you do your social media? I mean, how you market, how you go and target your audience, because this is a different audience. I mean,
yeah. So I, lucky enough, I've joined Compass a couple years ago, and Compass is very technological. They're very into AI, for example. And, it's been a transition for me because I'm more of an old school. When I got into real estate, we carried around, I had a pen and pad and I had a book. We didn't even have the MLS yet. That's one of the reasons why I switched to Compass. They're a technological company. So they're very good with social media on their platforms. So I utilize them a lot for social media. It's not my personal strong point, but the people at Compass are kind of experts in the field. So again, where you work. Now, some people can do that and work at companies, and if you're good, you could do it yourself or hire outside people to do it for you. But either way, however you do it, you just want to make sure whoever's doing it for you, you want them, to know what they're doing.
Perfect. Can you share any tips for compelling digital presence that you are applying right now and working for you?
Yeah, again, that's not my specialty. I really rely on my company for that, so I don't know that I can offer. They're really good at it, but I don't have anything that's not my focus personally. And that's another thing you have to keep in mind, right? You have to know what you're good at, and that's part of whether you work by yourself or you have a team. You want to hire the best people around you to free up your time so you can do what you're good at, whether that's getting business or closing business. If you're one of those people who are good at everything, that's fantastic. But if not, know what you're not good at and hire the best people to do the things that you need to get done.
Let me interject on that, because that is probably one of the biggest golden nuggets you just gave the audience. I preach this a lot. You need to focus on what you're good at, and you need to hire the rest to someone else. And Steve just explained it perfectly, right? He's not good in social media. That is the responsibility of someone else. And he understands that his primary strength is going to be that product knowledge and the sales side of it. So if you're out there and you're thinking that you can wear all hats, people, I'm telling you, that is one of the biggest mistakes any business person makes. You cannot and you will not be successful if you're trying to wear all hats. So thank you for sharing that, because that's hugely important. And I personally learned that myself early on in business. When I first got into business, I tell the story all the time. When I first started my management company, I made zero money. But I made zero money because I was spending money on hiring people, on marketing, and hiring people to do that, because that's not my expertise. And in the long run, it turned out to be one of the best decisions I made. But again, cannot wear all hats. So thank you for sharing that. Any other questions, Lorena, on the marketing side?
No, I think that it's good for now. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, Steve, we're going to close with a couple more questions. Give me one quick second. And I want to shift gears a little bit and touch on what it takes to be a successful realtor, specifically in the luxury market. So what skills or qualities do you feel are essential if you want to succeed in the luxury real estate market?
Well, I think the skills are the same. Regardless of the price point, you have to have that product knowledge. It is very competitive in the luxury market. You can't be, you can't let it affect you emotionally, because you're not going to win every listing. You're not going to. You have to focus on you and just make sure that when you do have your client, you're doing the best job you can do for them to get that repeat business, to get that referral business. And for me, it's like, I don't consider myself a salesperson, because I really believe in what I'm selling, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not trying to sell something to you. You're saying you need something, and I'm going to show you the best fit. You want to be here in this community, this specific community. I'm going to tell you what's available. And out of these 3, 4, or 5 so available properties, what the benefits are to each one. And then you, based on information, you make a decision. So really, again, I can't emphasize having the product knowledge, right? And I've dealt with this. I'll give you a quick story here. I sold a house about 4 years ago in Harbor Beach, a $9 million house. And the people were from Missouri. They were down here specifically looking for a house. They were down for the boat show, but they wanted to buy a house where they were down here. The gentleman walked into my open house, a nice guy, him and his wife. I showed him around, and he says to me, "Hey, we have a realtor." I said, "Hey, no problem. I always cooperate." I was happy to do so. Well, the realtor they had was from Missouri, so she linked up with another realtor in Fort Lauderdale who was a commercial realtor. Anyway, let's just say I did the whole transaction. They didn't know what they were doing, but like, you just have to be ready to step up to make the deal happen. Like, you can't take personally in that spot. You have to, don't make it about you, make it about the client at the end of the day. Hey, look, we're here. Look, don't get me wrong. We're all here to make money, but I want my client to be happy. I want a good transaction. I'm not here just for one deal. I'm here for a relationship for, the rest of my life with that person. It's not just, hey, I sold you this $9 million house. I don't want to see it. I mean, I've done deals with people that I've sold property to five years ago that I've sold. They've moved twice already because they have an affinity to do that down here for some reason. They'll go from a house to a condo, back to a house. They introduce you to their friend buys another house, they sell their house. So it's really important. The biggest reward to me is when I hear people say unsolicited, Steve, I love working with you. You're the best. I'm not asking you to write something down for me. Or I've had transactions where it's been a really tough negotiation. And at the closing table, when we're done, to have the client come up to me and say, Steve, you know what? I can't thank you enough. You always have my business, for the rest of my life. And if anybody needs a house, they're going to you. Like, that's rewarding to me because I know that I did a good job for them. So service is what really sets you apart, I think. So especially when you're dealing with that high-end market, you want to have the service, but in order to give that service, you have to know what you're talking about. You got to stay current. You do that. And if you feel genuine and just be genuine with somebody and don't look at it like, I just got to get the sale. I need the sale. Work for the relationship. So I think that's what I try to focus on.
Love that. And you just hit a key point, and you talked about, which is building relationships. So how important is that? And how important is networking within the industry? And I'm going to add on to that, what advice do you have for doing an effective job in building that relationship and networking?
Yeah. So, you want to, obviously, if you're going to keep that relationship going, you do need to go ahead and make contact from time to time. And if that could be something as simple as, hey, how's it going, Joe? I just want, how you been? I want to let you know, this house just sold down the road from you. And comparatively to what you had, a year ago, it's up this much. Or for example, if I have a buyer, here's a better example. I love doing this because there's a lot of limited inventory sometimes for the specifics that these $1 million buyers want. So sometimes the property won't be on the market what they want. So I'll be like, well, wait a minute. I just sold so-and-so a house a few years ago, and this house would meet that person's requirements. And I'll call them up and I'll say, hey, how you doing? We're talking. How you enjoying the house? Hey, let me ask you a question. If I had a buyer, who was willing to pay the right price, would you consider, selling? I know it sounds crazy, but in this market, and they'll be like, well, we're kind of happy here, but what kind of number are we talking about? And then when I throw the number at them, sometimes, it moves the needle. They'll be like, well, if they come up to X, I might do that. So that's just another way to show and make your past buyer or seller feel good that, hey, I've just made a lot of money. I have some, this real world scenario just happened like a year ago. I had a buyer looking, and my client, I had sold him a house for $8 million, and he would have paid $12 million for the house. But my buyer that I sold to was so happy there. He says, Steve, I appreciate it, but we're just so happy here. But, I talked to him since. He's like, really? He's like, that guy was going to give me $12 million. I go, he would have gave me $12 million. We put him someplace else eventually, but like your house worked for him. The location, the size, the water frontage. And that's what we find, right? It's a lot of times in the luxury market, you need so much on the water. You need a certain size house. Some of these people, I need 6 bedrooms. I need a guest house. So there's not too many of those properties that meet the bill. So anytime you're able to tap past clients with demand, it's another good way of staying in touch with them. Or you invite them to a broker open. Hey, and I did this last year too. I sold a house back in March, and on Las Olas. And the year prior, I had sold these nice people from Chicago another house, and I invited them to the broker. I say, why don't you stop by? I got this brand new house. I want you to check it out. Just stop by and have a drink, and they'll come by. I'm not trying to sell them the house, but I'm just trying to to keep them involved, if you will, on what's going on.
I love that. And that, my friends, is what separates Steve from others in the industry. And that's, and let me ask you that on that note, because I think that really separates you from a lot of people. can you add something else that you do that keeps you ahead of the competition, and especially in an industry that's constantly changing?
Right. Well, I do want to first say too, there are like the people, like my peers that I work with, they're all razor sharp, but so like, but then I think it drops off. And I think one thing that we all do, including them, is, you're constantly aware of what's going on. Like, what are the new things? Like, I drive to neighborhoods 3 times a week. I drive to neighborhoods. You've got to be all the latest information, whatever's going on, and you have to stop and talk to people. You want to be the first one to know, hey, I'm thinking about selling this house. A developer's coming here. He's going to be building a new property. You want to be the eyes and ears, because that's the most valuable thing you bring to anybody, is information they don't know about. Anybody can go online and say, hey, I saw this house on Zillow. But if I can tell you, okay, but what you can't see on Zillow are X, Y, and Z, this is what's going on here, and I have all this information, that's what makes you valuable, because you know more than Realtor.com or Zillow. You know exactly what's going on. You know if is there work going on? Are they putting underground utilities on the street? Are they raising the seawalls? Have they rezoned the area? Can you now build townhomes where you had a home? Did the setbacks change? Are they dredging the canal? So all the information, and it's funny too, because I get some buyers sometime, and they're like, what do you need a realtor for? You don't need a realtor. Well, I'm not going to sit here and plead my case to you, but it's like, what do you need a heart surgeon for? Why don't you just go to a pediatrician, right? Well, he specializes in heart surgery. Well, I specialize in real estate, and more specifically, I specify in this area. So that's the level of service and knowledge that you bring. For example, if you have a realtor who works in Coral Springs or who works in West Palm Beach, they're just not going to be on top of the same information that a local realtor who is full-time, who is a luxury realtor, who knows the ins and outs of what's going on in that neighborhood. That buyer you're going to bring, or that seller, you're going to be able to bring the best information so they can make a good decision, the best decision. Oh, hey, maybe I should buy there. Oh, I want to get in before everybody finds out about this. So information, specifically information that's not readily known, and just your expertise. I think that's just what people do, and they're in it every day. Not just me, but because I have a lot of respect for my peers that I work with every day. They're out there, and it's, we see them all the time. You do deals together, right? So and that's another thing too. You want to be able to have relationships, good relationships with your peers, because you're going to be working with them over and over again. So it's always good to have that camaraderie. Hey, we're all friends. We're all working for the same listing, for that same buyer, but we all work within the guidelines, and then we let that person choose. Hey, sometimes it's just a personal connection. You all have the same level of knowledge maybe, but I connected with this person, or I connected with that person. So all you can do is be ready and put yourself out there and be genuine.
I love that. Let's let me ask you this question, because you kind of touched on it, and that was working with your peers. You talked about Compass and their technology that they use. So what role do you think the emerging technology like virtual reality or AI will play in the future as it relates to the luxury market?
Yeah. So again, I would say, and only because I've been to classes and seminars at my company, they are huge on AI. And I'm not trying to plug Compass. I'm just so the AI that they have, what we do is, we load our database up of our clients, and the AI will literally tell us who's most likely looking to buy or sell coming up. Hey, you need to call this person. And I don't know how AI does it, but they have a very high success rate. Like, hey, you need to call this person. This person will likely be ready to sell in 6 months, or this person is likely ready to buy something. And so what AI does, which I'm not good at, they could take that person's name, and they can go ahead through the internet and find everything out that I could probably find out would probably take me 2 years. They could do it in 2 minutes. And I don't know what they do or how it works. I can't explain it. But to answer your question about AI, I think it's going to change drastically as far as the helping realtors get business, basically, like to know where to put where to fish, who to talk to, when to talk to them, who's likely to buy. That's how I see it interacting from a guy who's I'm not tech heavy, so that's just my best explanation.
No. And you hit the nail on the head. And in fact, I just did a video discussing how to enhance or create a better customer experience, how important that is for businesses. And in that video, I went in depth on AI, on virtual reality, augmented reality, because that is the future. I am fortunate that I started or got into AI early on, by luck, through a friend of mine who was actually using it in his business, and I incorporated that into my business. And you're 1,000% right when you say what normally would have taken you maybe weeks, if not months, to accomplish, AI can do it in seconds.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we use it a lot in my business. Now, you mentioned that Compass is using AI to tell or show the realtors where to fish, which is phenomenal. But I really think that the use of AI is better, or better said, using AI is better to enhancing that customer experience more than anything else in the industry today. Yeah, you can get data, and that data can help you find where to fish. But more importantly, AI can help you once you found that where to fish, can help you enhance that customer experience. It makes that customer feel like they're special, makes them feel like their needs are being met. There's a lot that you can do. So I'm so glad Compass is using it. And by all means, Steve, promote Compass, promote yourself. This is about, I'm with Compass EXP, but if I was being interviewed, you best believe I will be preaching and selling EXP to the highest end.
Right.
So don't be afraid. Don't be shy. Promote yourself. And I'm going to be, those that know me and know us, they know that I'm one of your biggest fans. I tell people all the time, if I were a woman, you have to speak every single day. So just because I know how good you are, we used to joke around, and I tell people all the time, if you want a Rain Man, call Steve. That guy knows numbers. He knows his area better than most people. So I'm going to sell you. I'm going to applaud you for your work, your hard effort, your dedication to your profession. We need more people like you worldwide in every profession, but specifically in the real estate market, because I firmly believe that 90, if not 90+% of realtors suck. They're horrible. And we need more professionals in the industry.
Yeah, no, I agree. But you know what? Just because this is a pet peeve of mine, this might not be appropriate for the podcast, but like you said, 90% suck maybe, and I'm not going to disagree with that. But whoever's watching this, whether you get into real estate or whatever you do, no one's making you choose what you want to do. If you want to go ahead and be an accountant, if you want to work in a bank, if you want to work in a grocery store, if you want to be a lawyer, nobody's making you do that. If you want to be a doctor or nurse, I don't care. In fact, nobody cares. You care. You chose it. So just show up and do a good job. Show up ready to work and do a good job. But if you're not happy, then figure out why you're not happy. But don't look for someone else for the answers, right? Regardless of what you do, you can, I'm not good at this. I'm not good at that. Well, you're not good at that because you're not applying yourself, because you're making excuses instead of putting in the time to get better. And maybe you have to put in some time to say, hey, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'm going to try something else. But there's too many victims in the world today who complain about why they don't have things, but they don't want to go ahead and work for them. That's all I got to say about that. So
I know that. That's it. I'm going to jump that too. I'm going to jump that battle.
I'm sick of seeing the posters when I go out in the world. Everybody's upset. Everybody, this guy, that guy. I'm over it, man. I'm like, come on, please stop complaining.
Yeah, Exactly. And here's what I'm going to say to that as well. First of all, you people in general, you guys really, hold on one second. What's the matter? Callie being a pain. Come on. You want to be in a podcast? Be in a podcast. Say hi. What I want to say is people need to surround themselves with people that are like-minded, not like-minded in everything, because you need to be well-rounded. My God, man, be with people that are be with people that are going to make you better, right? I call Steve a friend because I firmly believe I get a lot more than I give him, right? He gives me energy. I learn a lot every time I talk to him. In fact, I got into the real estate business because of Steve. So, but so that's one point. The second point is that you're 100% right. I don't care if you are a janitor. I don't care if you work at McDonald's. I don't care what you do. You're doing that because you chose to do that. So be as good as you possibly can. And I read a book. I can't remember the name of it right now, but in the book they have case studies of 5 multimillionaires, and these 5 multimillionaires had average jobs, but they did above average work.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
if you're the boss, if you're a company owner, if you're a boss, why am I going to give you more responsibility or more money if you can't do the job that's assigned to you? But if you're doing your job better than anybody else, you're like, what else you got for me? Oh, I need you to fill in. Oh, okay, I'll do it. Can you come in? I'll help you out. Hey, did you do that? I already did that. What else do you have? If you're doing that, then me as an employer, as a boss, or as an owner, I'm going to say, hey, you know what? This guy's an asset. This girl's an asset. I don't want to lose them. Hey, let me show you this over here. Are you interested in learning how to do this? Yeah, I'd love to do it. Those are the people who get ahead. But when you go there and it's like, you just get there to wherever your job is, and you're like, something was supposed to be done and it didn't get done. You're making excuses. You're going to get what you reap. That's all. That's what I think.
Yep. Let's land this plane, Steve. The last question I got for you: what advice would you give someone interested in getting into real estate, specifically in the market, real estate? What advice would you give that person?
Well, again, I'll try to stay specific to luxury, but it's pretty much it applies across the board. You got to make an investment in yourself. You've got to learn the market. Product knowledge is 85%, and then selling skills and selling attitude is another 15%. It's all important, but you can have the best selling skills in the world if you don't have the product knowledge. So know the product knowledge. Use the best marketing, pictures, videos that you can. Be sincere, be genuine, and learn that information. Be the expert, right? Be the expert in the area you're going to sell. Now, I refer people to, across the country. I can't sell California. I can't sell Santa Barbara. I don't know anything about it. But here in Fort Lauderdale, I'm the expert, right? So, be the luxury specialist in your area. If you want to expand that, you can do that. But you got to be one step ahead of everybody else with what's going on in the area. Any news, anything that's not readily available to anybody makes you more valuable. So the more information you have, the better you are. And also, you will spend a little bit more money on marketing. It's different, right? If you have $100,000 listing, you're not going to spend $5,000, $6,000 necessarily. You might not do a mail out for $7,000. You might not throw a broker party that costs you $10,000. Which I've done. But I'll do that on a $9 million property. So I have no problem doing that. So you just have to be set up to do that. You just have to know with this, comes a little bit more increased financial input on your part, but the reward on the back end is worth it. So just be set up for it.
Awesome. Lorena, any closing thoughts? You're on mute.
I think that everything is good. I like the advice. Thank you.
Thanks, Lorena.
All right, Steve, I greatly appreciate you coming on. For those of you that have not subscribed to this channel, subscribe. I'm going to have all of Steve's information down below. If you're looking for, or you're in luxury market, you're looking for to buy a property in South Florida, I'm telling you, you're not going to find a better realtor than Steve.
Thanks, man.
They're not out there. So, guys, Steve, closing thought?
No, great spending time with you. I enjoy talking about real estate. It's South Florida market strong, not going anywhere soon. More people are still coming here than leaving. It's better to buy real estate and wait than to wait to buy real estate. I'll say that. Just go out there and buy it. Don't time this.
I'm saying, and so is Callie saying. I tell people all the time the same thing. I love that. I love that quote. So anyway, love you guys. I'll see you in the next one.